You are listening to the FTWpodcast.com, where we talk about wrestling in all of its laughable glory. Here's a clip from this week's episode.
So our question of the week last week was, what is the true main event for WrestleMania 28? Is it Jericho, Punk, Bryan, Sheamus, Triple H, and Taker, or Cena, Rock? What do you guys think before we get to what the fans say?
Oh, I'm going to probably go here with Cena Rock only because they've been hyping it for a year.
If I don't understand why there was any discussion that it isn't Cena Rock. Every time they promo it, Cena Rock is on the graphic.
Yeah, I mean, but...
Well, that's yeah, okay. What we asked what the true main event was. What do we think it is? It's our opinion.
I still say it's Cena Rock. That's definitely the biggest match of the night.
Well, I guess the question really is, yeah, it's true. What is the main event? Well, do you guys consider the last match of the show to be the main event technically, or it's kind of that? Yeah, so it's definitely, I think it's Cena Rock. Because like Joe said, they've been building it for a year. I mean, that is one thing that's been kind of aggravating me is the fact that they've announced, I'm going to the main event at WrestleMania. That match, and that match too are all going to the main event at WrestleMania. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, that is one thing. That is one thing that is kind of irritating. I mean, it's very clear that WWE is billing, maybe not the main event, but the title match or the main event, the super main event, is Cena Rock. But I mean, a lot of our fans brought up really good points. Noi83 on Twitter said, at this point, Triple H and Taker. The Rock Cena have feuded via social media. Bryan Sheamus is yet to begin, and Punk is feuding with Chris Brown. So it is kind of interesting to see that he's bringing up a point that as far as what you've seen on TV, Triple H and Taker have been the ones that have been taking the most shots at each other over the course of this whole thing, leading up to WrestleMania. On our Facebook wall, Kenneth K said Daniel Davidson versus Sheamus. He's in the winner of the Royal Rumble main events WrestleMania crowd, unless Zack Ryder is wrestling, and which then Zack Ryder's match is the main event. Okay, but that's an interesting point because that is old school. Winner of the Royal Rumble main event is the main event of WrestleMania.
Look what happened last year. Del Rio won it, and where was he on WrestleMania? He was, the opening match.
Curtain jerker with Edge, yeah.
Yeah.
So it is an old school viewpoint that it is sadly falling to the wayside. Zahir, big friend on Facebook, great guy, said a casual fan would say that Cena Rock because how it's being built up. Excuse me, I'm not a casual fan. I would say that. And he said, well, The Rock's in the match, so that explains itself. But the way he sees it, the true main event is Jericho versus Punk. In his opinion, he reckons that this match will get quite overshadowed by Rock Cena, so it'll be more like Savage versus Steamboat at WrestleMania 3. That's a really good point.
That's a damn good point, actually.
I mean, what do you guys think about that one? Do you see basically Jericho versus Punk? If Cena Rock wasn't happening, Jericho versus Punk could easily be the main event. But because of that match, it is going to get overshadowed. So, like Savage versus Steamboat at WrestleMania.
See, I even think it's going to be overshadowed by Triple H Undertaker only because it's 20-0 on the streak.
That exact point. That's what Kyle K said on our friend on Facebook. He said the match that changed it from a might buy to a must buy is the Taker Triple H Hell in a Cell. He said he knows this is the third time, but he thinks that because last year's match was incredible, he has no doubt that this year's match, once you add the cage, is just going to surpass it. He thinks, and he also is throwing down the gauntlet saying Triple H is going to win. So good on him for that one. He says that, you're looking at the Undertaker, probably the Undertaker's last match, and probably Triple H's. Put that inside the structure that Undertaker made famous, and the question of the main event, in his mind at least, is closed. And I got to be honest, that is a really good argument. I mean, you can't ask for anything more than Triple H versus Taker, 20-0, in a Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania. I mean, you can't make that bigger.
I do have one little side point. This is just my opinion about the whole thing. I think that while the WWE Championship match between Punk and Jericho is something to watch, and that the comparison between Steamboat and Savage is probably really dead on. I can't really think of anything else to compare it to. I think, and this is just me, I think Taker's matches at Mania have surpassed in terms of importance title matches at Mania. Beforehand, title matches at Mania were a big deal, but now I think Taker's matches at Mania have surpassed that. I mean, I think they did like an interview about the whole thing when they were building up last year's match, but that you see title changes happen all the time, TV, pay-per-views, blah, blah, all time of the year, but you never see Taker lose, and it's become its own attraction. I think it's kind of bigger than the title matches now.
Connor, that's an excellent point. And that's what the live chat is saying, that titles should always be the main event. But like you said, Taker at WrestleMania only happens once a year. So, it's like your trip to Disney. Yeah, you can go to Cedar Point all the time, but you only go to Disney once a year. So it's like Christmas. So, yeah, it's going to be a big event. And I think Kyle's got a really good point that add that plus Hell in a Cell, plus the fact that these guys, both Triple H and Taker, Triple H has got one foot out the ring. Taker's coming up to the end of his career. That solid argument for that being the main event.
Well, you've heard our thoughts, but now we want to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter, and even join us live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. at the FTWpodcast.com.